What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. We're recording after series sweep or getting swept by the Cardinals. I was used to saying series sweep by the Yankees. Now, over the past month and a half, not so much. Scott, what's going on this morning?
What's up? Yeah, it rings a little differently when you actually get swept rather than sweeping the other team. We got away from winning series, and look at us now. We have, a bad record really in July compared to the rest of the season. We're getting passed in the records. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. We got to get this team to gel now that there's a bunch of new people, but not happening yet. Not at all, especially on the pitching side.
Well, yeah, it's like we talked about how the trade deadline was actually coming at a great time. I think you went on a nice little rant about that, where get your slumps out now, right? Like show all your warts before the trade deadline so Brian Cashman can address them.
Show us where
And
you suck is what I said.
yeah, I still think he did a good job at doing that, right? Like added a left fielder who makes contact and doesn't strike out. Great. Added what should be a top flight starting pitcher. Great. Added a couple bullpen arms in a bullpen that had been thin due to underperformances and injuries. Great. Hasn't materialized yet. I mean, it's only been a week since the trade deadline, so pump the brakes on everyone calling Montas a bust, and Benintendi a bust, and all this stuff. But it's been 40 plus games of this team playing pretty mediocre baseball. And to me, that's what's more concerning than, okay, yeah, maybe Benintendi hasn't got off to such a hot start and Montas had a bad first start.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I'm starting to get to the point here, like you said, 40 games becoming enough of a sample to be like, okay, what's going on here? Enough of a sample where they're struggling for me to start getting much more annoyed by Aaron Boone. You know, when that like lever starts going, like, okay, you have a tolerance for him, zero tolerance for him. The tolerance is getting much less for Aaron Boone. And just like yesterday when he gets thrown out of the game, I'm like, you know what? The guy was awful for both sides all day. Just terrible, not missing calls left and right. But it was for both sides. It wasn't just for your team. I'm like, I guess we don't need our manager in a game where they're about to get swept when it's close. You know, I guess you mean nothing because that's basically what this is. Like, there's no reason to get tossed in that game. Everybody's pissed off. It started to annoy me. I'm like, okay, now the leadership of the team is not there in a game where we're looking to get swept by the St. Louis Cardinals on the road. It was just, for whatever reason, that one bothered me a little bit because of the situation and where the team is right now.
I don't know if that bothered me. I think what he's trying to do there is fire his team up, because in that inning specifically, the Marwin Gonzalez call.
Yeah, it was egregious. It was egregious.
That completely changed the inning and potentially the game, right? Because you're talking about a walk there, and then assuming the next two things happen, DJ gets out and Judge gets the double off the wall. Like it could have been a very different inning. Your point about the umpire just being awful for both sides stands, but I don't have a problem with Boone going out there and voicing his frustration and maybe trying to fire his team up. I don't think Boone is going to do anything more from the dugout versus the clubhouse in a game like that. So I don't really care. I mean, it's certainly not as annoying as when he got thrown out with 2 outs in the 9th inning last year when the team's getting like blown out by 8 runs. Like, it's not that egregious of a get tossed out of a game situation, but it's just the umpires, nothing ever changes with that. So
No.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going out there and yelling at the umpires. Guess what? Tomorrow they're going to suck too.
That's my point is more to the point that, like, it's starting, little Boonisms are starting to annoy me, and you just know that because that's happening, other things are not going well, and that it's more of a gauge on what's happening during the season. Because when the Yankees were playing well, even if he screwed up, he's like, you know what, we'll give him a leash. They're playing well. He's doing his thing. Maybe he's figuring things out. And now we're looking at a 500 team essentially. And I'm like, you know what, this guy, an idiot. He's an absolute moron. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned Judge on that. He was clutch, man. He was clutch in that game. He came up with a few different clutch situations.
All year.
and just freaking nails. So good to see that that's consistent. He's such a constant, man, and it's such a big deal. After Soto, just taking a landscape of everything. If the Yankees don't re-sign him, it's going to be one of the worst offseason baffles in Yankees history. It really will be.
I had a nice, fun text conversation with Neil Keefe, our buddy Neil Keefe, yesterday, right? Like a text conversation with Neil is always just going to bring joy to your heart.
Definitely.
So it started because I saw him interacting on Twitter about how the math says that the AL East is wrapped up and everything. He's not worried about it. So we were just then texting back and forth. And I'm like, well, what does the math say about a first-round playoff exit? And he's like, 100%. I'm like, great. Judge is going to hit 66 bombs this year, and then he's going to sign in San Francisco in free agency. It's going to be after our Yankees first-round exit, it's going to be just so fun to watch the first-round exit in October with the way this team is playing.
So Neil Keefe is saying that the math says that the division is wrapped up at this point? That's what he
says?
You know what? That doesn't make me feel good. I mean, probably one of the most, glass half empty fans I've ever met in my life, looking at the things in a very critical way, saying that we're good and got it wrapped up. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I feel like that is a bad sign. That is a bad sign.
Who cares though? Who cares if the math says that the Yankees have the division wrapped up? Like, yeah, I think they're going to win the division because they were out to such a huge lead. I don't want them limping to the division, though, and playing like crap entering October because guess what? It will be a first-round playoff exit, and I don't think you really give two flying craps about a AL East crown. I certainly don't. I want a World Series championship, and that's what we thought this team was after watching them in the first half of the season. And now, after seeing them for the last month and a half of baseball, they're not anywhere close to a championship team. Like, nothing has been going right for the Yankees over the past month plus. They're honestly lucky to have the record they are with how inconsistent every aspect of this team has been. And you talked about how I'm starting to get frustrated with some of the moves that Boone was making, and he didn't
George
seem
is getting
to do
angry.
anything. He didn't seem to do anything wrong in the first half. You know what? It's pretty easy to manage a baseball game when your starting pitching goes out there and pitches 7 innings and gives up 1 run every night, because that's pretty much what happened in the first 2 months of the season.
Well, that's not true. That's not true. They had more of those, no doubt about it, but there was also the leash by him was there too. He allowed them to struggle and allowed them to get through that because of those good ones. Well,
not struggle like we've seen.
Not like we've seen, of course not. But
okay,
but there were times where he had a longer leash because of some of the success. So I mean,
fine,
yeah.
But you can do that when you had 5
Of course you can.
Wasn't there a stat where the Yankees like set some sort of record for number of games played by only using 5 starting pitchers this year?
Sure. Like for this argument, let's say there was.
Right, there was insane consistency out of the starting rotation. So even if one guy struggled, the next 4 would be good. And that allows you to give a leash to some guy and let Tyon battle through something, or let Montgomery, when he was still in pinstripes, battle through something, right? Now, every single night, it feels like the Yankee starting pitching is battling to get through 4 innings. And what that does, it puts bullpen arms in positions they just were not in the first 2 months of the season. More decisions have to be made. So when you add, I feel like we talked about this ad nauseum in 2018 and 2019, where yes, you have all these elite arms in the bullpen, but when you have to make 4 or even 5 correct decisions in a game, and all 5 of those pitchers need to be on their A game, that's just more variables for one thing to go wrong. And that's what we're seeing.
Right now, yes, but this team is not set up for that in theory. When you're looking at what the team is built for right now, that is actually not the case. Bringing over Montas, having Cole, Severino potentially healthy, and even Nestor Cortez, the team is still built on starting pitching and having a go bullpen. It's not like they don't have good starting pitching. In theory, they do. They have what I know. Mailbag coming in is not calling him an ace, but what you have is your number 1, Garrett Cole. Montas, I know, got off to a rough start, but that's not who he is. The guy was off for I think 11 days. Was on a bereavement list, before coming in. There were some things there. Like there's a human element there. I'm giving him a pass on that on that start. I want to see him in the next one. But you have a solid one too with Nestor Cortes, who's been obviously damn good in the first half, but still been very good overall in the season. So it's not like he's going to have to make that on a daily basis like it was 2 years ago. This is a different team. This is a team that is built differently. And yes, I got frustrated and I called it a slump because I'm trying not to go into the depths of hell with my mind and where this team is going because of the trend.
You don't want me to bring you down?
No, I'm really trying to stay afloat. I'm trying to stay afloat. It's like almost to a point where I'm going to get the straw out. But the team is set up, and Benintendi I am not worried about. You saw him coming around. Even when he was struggling in the first few games as a Yankee, he was walking. But you're starting to see him swing a bat well. And the two guys in the bullpen, Trevino, I don't know about him. I could see him potentially being DFA'd at some point in the next month. But the other kid from Chicago, has good splits. He just not coming over and performing all that great so far. Got to let this team settle, let the dust settle, let everything settle down for a week or two, see where we are. The problem with that is that now you're saying
another week or two, so we're gonna have a sample of 60 games.
No, I'm at this point, and now I'm gonna be at a different point in 2 weeks. We'll see where we are in 2 weeks. That's all I'm saying. I'm at this point right now, and it's starting to get frustrating. And now I need to give it a little bit longer to see if the frustration could settle down or if it becomes an all-out, spasm, and I just start to freak out about the way the team is playing and playing boom for everything.
So what you're saying is that if in 2 weeks from now we're talking about the same sort of play, you'll have an all-out spasm?
Oh yes, I may have a heart attack on the podcast.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to that. No, I'm not overreacting to Montas' first game, okay? I'm not one of these, people. I understand the situation and the human element that he was put in. Yeah, he was on bereavement leave. He was off for 11 days. He's coming in. It's 7 million degrees in St. Louis, and it's a tough spot. And you're trying to make a good first impression, and it just didn't happen. And also, maybe the umpire played a factor there as well. But if his next couple starts struggle as well, it's okay, now we're talking about something. Same with Benintendi. Has not had a first good 10 days as a Yankee. I'm confident he will turn it around. But what about the rest of the team that has been here the whole season and has been struggling for 2 months? What about that? And it's glaringly obvious what this offense is without Rizzo in there. And I mean, I guess Stanton as well, but particularly, I feel like the absence of Rizzo over the weekend was glaring.
Well, yeah, because Judge is also getting walked in situations depending on who's behind him. You can't really make them pay. You have Stanton and Rizzo out of this lineup. Don't forget, and they still put up 16 hits on Sunday and lost the game. I mean, DJ LeMahieu is back to form that we saw a few years ago. The guy's just doing everything, including playing a damn good first base. So you're not necessarily feeling Rizzo as much on the field because of that. You're just feeling the lack of another bat behind Judge so that he can, be set up for some fastballs over the plate or some cookies over the plate because of who's behind him and can make him pay. Logan. Oh, lost you, man. But that's the biggest thing. So when you look at what this lineup is, there is they're still there. I'm not worried about the offense. Benintendi had 2 hits. He's still 305 on the season, and he's been walking even when he's not hitting. So I'm not really overly concerned. Hicks is the one that you look at, and considering Bader was the guy around the biggest trade that everybody has the most skepticism about, rightfully so, because Montgomery came out and threw 5 shutout innings against us. Even he got 3 hits the other day, but went for over 32 slide. He's been really struggling. And even those 3 hits, they were, they weren't
numbers off the end of the bat.
Yeah, they weren't necessarily lasers.
Yeah, and you also saw Glaber having to hit cleanup, and I know Glaber had a couple hits on Sunday, but damn, were his at-bats ugly on Friday and Saturday. Particularly one on Friday I actually made note of. He was hitting cleanup and he comes up in the first inning with first and third, and he strikes out on 3 pitches. All of them were out of the strike zone. just a completely non-competitive at bat. And this is something that I actually praised Glaber for in the first half of the season. Like, didn't really see a lot of those at bats where he just looked completely overmatched, completely lost, almost like he was deciding, I'm going to swing at this pitch before the pitcher even enters his windup. But that's what I have been seeing recently from Glaber. And the fact that he's hitting cleanup makes it even more of a problem.
Well, it goes back to the reason he was struggling so much is he was trying too goddamn hard to be a productive player the last couple of years, and rather than just taking what's coming to him and staying with that same Cameron Maybin approach, middle of the field, that's when you start to see him, flailing at balls, not playing, not having good at bats. He's got to kind of hone it back in, and he's not a cleanup guy by any means. He should be nowhere near that spot in the lineup. He's got to just basically move the lineup along and make sure that he's taking for what he's given.
And sticking with that game on Friday night, what did you think of the decision to bring in Holmes in the 8th? And Boone had said after the game, Chapman was lined up to close if they had held on to the lead.
Hey now. It goes.
Actually, hold on. What did I say like a week and a half ago? Didn't I say something about August 8th being like, if we're talking on August 8th, oh look, it's Monday, August 8th, and is Chapman the closer again?
It doesn't. It is basically what he had said was going to happen. If there's an opportunity for Holmes to come in and be that fire extinguisher, the meat of the lineup was coming up at that point. So I don't hate it. He just didn't execute. To me, if Chapman's going well and he's been pitching much better lately, if he's going well and he has the ability to pitch in the 9th inning, and Holmes, in theory just became a closer. It's not like he can't pitch anywhere else. He certainly can. Those guys could be interchangeable based on the matchup. I think that's actually good baseball. That's good baseball. If you have two guys going well and you're able to and you have a better matchup in the 8th inning with Holmes and the guys who are up than you do Chapman, I got no problem with it. If that's the way that they're going to do it, that means you have two guys who have in theory, the mindset to close a game out. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it was Goldschmidt, Arenado, but it ended up being Paul DeJong who got the big hit off. And Paul DeJong's been a 150 hitter this season. Okay, yeah. He's been a non-factor offensively, and he murdered the Yankees this weekend.
Yeah, he murdered the Yankees. I don't know how a guy like that, makes the Yankees pay as badly as he did, but it wasn't good. It was not good.
Do you think the Yankees are losing confidence in Clay Holmes?
No, I think that we throw the word confidence around way too loosely in losing it or gaining it, like way too loosely.
Explain.
Because when you have a few bad outings, again, I think the guys in the room, the guys in the dugout, in the locker room, are sitting there chalking it up as, not just a bad outing, just a bad outing. They know what the guy is. They know what the guy will always be. This is exactly why Derek Jeter hit number 1 and 2 for his entire career, because at some point he's going to turn it around, or that's the expectation. So I think that when you're there, unless you see a sustained success or sustained failures, then you're really not going to do much. I mean, Chapman, it took a good amount of bad outings for that to start imploding.
So now you're saying Clay Holmes is the Derek Jeter of closers. Got it.
Yes.
No. Yes. So I guess when I ask you, are the Yankees losing confidence? What I'm really asking is, are you losing confidence in Clay Holmes? Like that feeling that you had when Clay Holmes walked into a game in the first half of the season, like you could leave the room. You could change the channel. That's how confident you were that he was going to lock it down. I no longer feel that way. No,
I don't feel the same way. Of course not, because he's hurt me. Once you hurt me, then I have a little bit of doubt. He hadn't done anything wrong for the first half, like nothing. So we hadn't seen literally anything besides him dominating. He had perfect innings every single time out almost. It was unbelievable. So what we saw was not the norm. That's the thing. Like the first half of this season was something that was just unreal for multiple people, including the team in general. But Clay Holmes was as close to perfect as you possibly can be. So There will be hiccups. That's baseball, Susan. There's going to be hiccups. So do I have the same confidence? Of course not, because I've seen him, get knocked around. I've seen him lose location. I've seen him not be that same guy. So I still have confidence that he can come in and execute and be that guy in moments, no doubt. So, I don't think it's necessarily a lack of confidence. I'm not rolling my eyes and be like, oh, here we go. Clay Holmes is coming in. I'm not there by any means.
What about Chapman? Have you gained confidence in Aroldis Chapman? He had another scoreless inning on Saturday. And I feel like the fact that he would have been the closer if the Yankees held on to the lead on Friday night, to me says the Yankees have gained confidence in Aroldis Chapman. Like, there's no other way to explain it. He was relegated to the 6th and 7th innings for a while. And now Boone said he would have been the closer tonight. And I think there was a game last week too where I think it was the game against Kansas City that Judge hit the walk-off. Chapman was going to be pitching in the 10th inning if Judge didn't hit that walk-off.
Holmes had come in. We don't know if he was going to be pitching in there because there would have been a guy on second base, but there was a debate that you and I had. What that tells me, the biggest thing, is not that the Yankees have confidence, it's that Chapman has confidence in himself. Because if he doesn't have confidence in himself, that's when you see the bad Chapman happening. I mean, any pitcher, you start losing confidence in yourself, then you're not able to execute as well. It's pretty important to believe in what you're doing, and I don't think Chapman was all the way there. So what I'm seeing now, and just hearing that Boone was going to use him in the 9th inning, to me means that, okay, Chapman's feeling good, Chapman's feeling confident, Chapman's feeling like he's got his mojo back, and to me that's the biggest thing. If he believes that he can throw strikes and blow people away, that's
you think that's
one of
biggest
the bigger
thing for
things.
Chapman? We talked about how we didn't think it was between the ears, and we poo-pooed the whole thing.
That's not a confidence thing.
I can't pitch
that's
the
not
ninth inning.
That's not a between the ears. That's not a mental thing. That's confidence in your mechanics. That's what I mean. I mean confidence in your mechanics. He feels confident in the way that he can execute. Confident in the, that is what builds confidence. It's not like all of a sudden you can't pitch a different inning because your mind is like, oh my God, I don't know what it is. But it's also, for his particular case, his mechanics were bad. They were just not, he wasn't repeating, his good delivery like he had in the past. And when he's out of sync, it's a lot of bad things. And then, your mind gets, leaked into with a lot of doubt. And I think that hearing that he's going to be pitching sometimes in the 9th inning now, and he's got that flavor back in the way that he can do things, then to me that's saying more than anything that Chapman is confident in what he's doing and how he's pitching and how he's executing.
You have an unbelievable ability to avoid answering the questions that I ask you. I asked you, do you have more confidence in Aroldis Chapman? And you just went on like a 4-minute soliloquy about Chapman's confidence and the Yankees' confidence because Chapman has confidence again. What about you, Scott?
If Chapman has confidence in himself, then I have more confidence in himself and him. Absolutely. Because you can see the body language says it all. If he's able to be around the plate, then yes, Aroldis Chapman could be a very good pitcher. If he's not around the plate, if he doesn't have if his mechanics are not locked in and he's not the guy that we've seen for years now, then no, I don't have confidence. But what I am seeing is a guy that's executing at a much higher level, is becoming more confident in himself. And yes, that gives me a hell of a lot more confidence seeing a guy like that. So if you asked me 3 weeks ago, no, absolutely not. He looked like a mess. 3 weeks later, he looks like a much more put together product out there that can execute in multiple different innings.
One final question that I would like you to answer, honestly.
We'll see if
what is your confidence level, 1 to 10, on the Yankees holding on to a close lead entering the 8th inning? Like it's a 4-2 game or a 4-3 game. The Yankees are up and we're going to the 8th inning. What is your confidence level that they close that out with a win?
If Holmes and Chapman are available, I'm not even gonna put Chapman in this yet, but if Holmes is available, I still think that they can. I'm still confident that they can do it. I know that they haven't been, but I'm not
Are you like
sitting there.
8? Are you an 8? Are you a 7?
Yeah, 7, 8, I'd say.
Okay, because like in the first half of the season, when it was King and Holmes, I was a 9.5.
No doubt.
Okay?
Exactly. I think one of the bigger things here is that King isn't there to get the ball to the ninth inning to Holmes. And if Holmes is going to be that guy to get the ball to the ninth inning, if Chapman's pitching well, then you're reconstructing that bullpen a little bit to kind of what it was if that's what he's trying to do. But in theory, you got to get the ball to the ninth inning.
In theory, they still have the arms to close out any close game. We just talked about Holmes and Chapman, but they just added Efros to the bullpen, who's had a really good season. Wandy Peralta has been an excellent pitcher this season, okay? And I know Marinaccio got sent down, but they have these other arms that you can also rely upon. But I'm sorry, I'm no greater than a 6 confidence right now that they will close out any lead close and late. Because there's just been too many hiccups. And it's not just Holmes' hiccups. I'm not putting this squarely on Holmes' shoulders. But the bullpen has just had too many blown games over the past month that I can't be any more confident than 6. And I almost feel like 6 is too high. I'm like, it's a coin flip. I'm a 5. It's 50-50 pretty much.
So it's because they are still very thin towards the back of guys that you can try. Efros,
I just mentioned 4 names.
Okay, you mentioned 4 names, but those are very different 4 names than what we had in the beginning. I mean, Wandy Peralta is not a guy that I have. He's coming in the 9th or the 8th inning to pass the ball. That's not who I want.
You
going
have
up
to,
against
though.
it. But
you have no choice. Like that's
exactly. We have no choice. That's not leading me to the comment. Efros, I don't know yet. I'm reserving judgment still, but I haven't seen him as a guy that's dependable yet. Trevino, I feel like is a blow up outing waiting to happen. Still, I'm not feeling it with him yet. And Loaizaga, unfortunately, is still walking guys. He came in yesterday.
I have zero confidence in Loaizaga.
Walking 2 guys. Abreu still, we know his stuff is there. He's pitching relatively well, but he's given up. Him coming out for a second inning is probably too much. But he's still not all the way around the plate. If you're not around the plate and you're walking too many guys in your bullpen, then it's tough for me to have a ton of confidence.
You're screwed. Walks are the worst thing for a bullpen. I know that sounds silly. It's like, oh, how come hits aren't the worst? I don't know. I'm sorry. Walks just completely take any air out of your sails, to use a cliche, right?
For any pitching staff in general. I mean, they had 8 walks yesterday. The pitching staff on the day, 8 walks.
For whatever reason, and I don't know why this is just one of those baseballisms. I feel like it's the 8th inning, and your 8th inning guy walks the leadoff batter versus gives up a solid single. For whatever reason, you feel worse about that walk.
Yes, you do, because the pitcher did that. Someone didn't beat you. You got beat yourself. You got played.
And the numbers that we pulled back up these struggles, because until June 18th this year, the Yankees were 14-4 in games decided by 1 run. And then since that date, they are 7-11, 21-15 overall, but 7-11 since June 19th, which also happens to be my birthday. So I hope I didn't, jinx anything here. 7-11 in 1-run games since that date. That's bad. That's bad. That's why I don't know how you have any confidence over a 5 or even a 6 is generous right now.
Yeah, it's fair. I'm just, I'm way more optimistic, I think, than everybody. That's the thing. I get hurt. I get hurt a lot.
Did you get hurt watching Monty pitch 5 scoreless innings against the Yankees? It was weird seeing him in a Cardinals uniform. I don't know why. It's just like, not that
you don't
Montgomery
know why,
was
because you've never seen him in any other uniform. That's why.
No,
That's exactly why.
But it's not like Montgomery's, gonna be remembered as some great Yankee or anything like that. But it's still like, I kind of was just like, oh yeah, like I guess I'll kind of miss Montgomery now that he's gone. And I still stand by what I was saying on the last episode. I don't agree with the trade. I know Harrison Bader is supposed to be some elite defender like we've never seen, right? Okay. I'm pretty sure Tim LaCastro made a freaking awesome play on a ball off the wall on Saturday to get it in like one hop. Did he barehand it, or he fielded it so quickly off the wall? Perfect relay throw, and they get the runner at the plate. So how much better is Bader going to be than LaCastro in center field? That's my point.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping the bat is there a little bit more than LaCastro. LaCastro is a negative bat, essentially. So he's a late inning defensive. I think that they're bringing in Bader to play center field, like straight up. I think that
to take over Hicks, like Hicks is on the bench. Fine. Okay.
Yeah. And Hicks becomes a fourth outfielder at that point. He's been playing, he's played left, he's played center. He could play.
And
right
Giancarlo's your DH. And
sure.
Okay, fine.
We'll see, though.
Right,
I mean, don't talk to me about Harrison Bader until this guy's out of a friggin' walking boot.
That's what I'm saying.
And actually playing baseball. You know what I'm saying? So yes, seeing Montgomery out there was strange because Montgomery, who was drafted by the Yankees, came up through the Yankees. He's been a Yankee his entire career. And when you see he was part of that. He was part of that team, and looking at him as a Yankee on the bench too, like he was a guy that was gelling very much with the team. He had good friends there, so seeing him out there, you know what it was? I was happy for him a little bit, to be honest, that he was pitching well because I hope he does well in St. Louis. I hope he has a phenomenal career for moving on because. He's done nothing. He's done nothing. Nothing wrong. He's a good pitcher. And for whatever reason, Brian Cashman saw something in this other guy that is in a walking boot, and we'll find out in September, I guess.
There's gonna be.
He better be fucking good. That's all I gotta say. This guy better be fucking good.
People big mad at Brian Cashman if Montgomery continues to be a really solid middle of the rotation. Like no one ever thinks he's going to be.
That's what he is. That's what he is. Like
then that's silly. That's honestly just silly to give up a solid number 3 pitcher for a center fielder that best case scenario it helps you next season. Like I don't see how Bader upgrades you this season. He doesn't. He does not upgrade you this season.
Again, more of this has been talked about too, and the move, and Cashman has even said some more things in interviews. Like they just didn't see Montgomery as a guy getting a playoff start. And here's the thing, you can logically say okay because there are guys that are of a similar ilk. But here's the difference: Montgomery has shown before that he can handle bigger situations. With our own eyes, we've seen it. We've seen this guy take the ball and, given innings, been good, been solid. So because of that, I need to see that with somebody else to believe it. As a fan, I need to see it to believe it. What you're saying on paper, okay, I can see that a little bit. I get it. You do have Domingo Germán, who pitched well. You have a guy like Clark Schmidt, who in theory is the next guy coming up from the minors who could, be a starter in the rotation. I get it. But I don't see her right now. What's in front of me, that's the problem. I see Jordan Montgomery standing up on a hot, humid day in front of a packed, biggest crowd out there in St. Louis, shoving against the Yankees. And I don't see this other center fielder, Harrison Bader, who is in a walking boot. And that's the guy you traded for. So what we see and what we don't see right now is really not fun because it's right in front of us. And that's part of the problem with this trade too. If Harrison Bader was out there playing, maybe it'd be a different story.
Did you listen? Wainwright did the interview with the Fox broadcast. I actually thought he was like maybe the best in-game player interview I've ever seen. Like Wainwright just seems like a really fun guy. And yeah, he did talk about how he thinks Bader is the best defensive center fielder in baseball, but he was really excited about getting Montgomery in the door. And I just feel like Wainwright is one of those veteran pitchers that just like will take Montgomery under his wing and, maybe get a little bit more out of him. And honestly, just like watching that broadcast and him talking about Montgomery and just like thinking more about the trade, I really hate it. I really hate that trade. And you're right. We need to see something from Bader this season to have any positive out of this trade because it's right now it's a complete loss, that trade.
If Harrison Bader were to, if Aaron Hicks starts laying another egg, over another, sample of 32 at-bats, 33 at-bats, and that will time out relatively nicely for a September entrance of a Harrison Bader. If he comes in and starts playing well when Hicks is not playing well, we change our minds immediately. For real. Like that's exactly what happens. If Aaron Hicks is not playing well, and that's part of what they saw, this guy, we're seeing things that we don't like on, contract be damned, contract aside, we don't like what we're seeing on the field right now over this entire stretch. We're seeing things that we believe are massive deficiencies in our center field spot. And then all of a sudden Harrison Bader comes in as a knight in shining armor and diving all over the damn place and hitting well enough. Then we will all be like, okay, that's exactly what we needed right now. Because if you have a fifth starter in whether it's Montgomery or Domingo Germán or Clark Schmidt, kind of doesn't matter until you get to the playoffs, and then you're loading up your bullpen and going with 3 to 4 guys. So we will all be okay if that is what happens. But we kind of do need that to happen for us to feel good about it.
Ken Rosenthal also said on that broadcast that center field has been the worst defensive position for the Yankees according to the advanced metrics, and I thought Judge has been okay. Like, maybe we should do an eye test versus nerd test on this coming up on Aaron Judge in center field, because my eye test said Judge was pretty solid in center field, but I guess according to the metrics, center field has been a weakness for the Yankees, and that's what they were looking to address. And I don't know if that is honest or if that's Cashman trying to cover his ass a little bit with this Montgomery trade and sort of talking about how I still believe he was trying to make another deal for a starting pitcher. And then that didn't work out. And so now this was our plan all along. We are upgrading our center field defense.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, we could speculate about this all day long, but he did acknowledge that they were in with other trades. So how they went down and when they went down and when they, came off the table, that's what we don't know. What the timing was of this trade versus the other ones that came off the books. Right.
And then, I mean, we already touched on the Sunday game. The Yankees, offense did show up, but the pitching was worse. Anything else you want to touch on from that game? I mean, I liked what they did against Wainwright, who's still a really good pitcher. They made him throw 111 pitches in 4 innings. It's just, I don't know, when Montas goes up there and gives up 6 runs in 2 innings, like, what are you going to do?
No, the offense was not the problem on Sunday. Sunday they had 16 hits, so you gotta be able to get out there and execute and get some runs across the board. It's when you look at Saturday, even you look at Saturday and you look at Friday and you look at what the lineup was. You have on Saturday LeCastro in the lineup. He's a negative bat. He's not a. I understand he's a good defensive player, but he's a late inning defensive replacement guy who can steal bases. That's who he is. If Harrison Bader's a guy that can give you some better at bats throughout a game, like. They still need to upgrade no matter what, if that's the case, if they're thinking about running him out there. But the offense is just very different when you have Rizzo and Stanton on the pine. Very different.
All right, we're going to do the top 5 games of the month, which might be a little difficult. This segment is brought to you by WynnBET, which is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. They bring the excitement of the Wynn Las Vegas to online sports betting and casino play. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today and receive a special offer. Bet $50 and win $200 with code XBlueWire. Download, bet, win. Go check it out. All right, so every month we've done top 5 games of the month, and every month we've had to really work to narrow it down to 5 candidates. This month we had to work to find 5 candidates, okay? Here's the 5. July 16th against Boston, the offense exploded, and Jameson Taillon had 6 scoreless innings. Carpenter had 7 RBIs in the game. The Yankees won 14-1. Great. That was right before the All-Star break, and the Yankees blew out the Red Sox. That's fun. July 17th, the very next day, I believe this was the Sunday before the All-Star break, the offense was great again, and Garrett Cole struck out 12 Red Sox. I believe this is when we started to realize that the Red Sox season was done, right? Like, this was the moment where we're like, oh, the Red Sox suck.
This is a trash team.
Got it. July 24th against Baltimore. Nestor Cortez, 6 shutout innings. Judge hit a 2-run homer. Yankees won 6-0. Not going to lie, I don't have a freaking clue about this game. I don't remember it one bit. July 28th against Kansas City. I do remember this game. 1-0 win on Judge's walk-off home run. I remember that game. July 29th, the next day. I remember this game as well. The Yankees lost the lead after Cole, I believe, gave up 5 straight hits in the 5th inning, but the offense came alive late. Judge hit a grand slam, and the Yankees ended up winning 11-5. In my mind, it's one of the Kansas City games, frankly, because the other two were against suck Boston, and then Baltimore couldn't. I don't even believe that game happened. Sorry.
To me, when you're looking at this, it's got to be the first one. I know Cole had 12 strikeouts in the second game against Boston that's on this list, but Jamison, Tyone having 6 scoreless, and then Matt Carpenter with 7 RBIs. That's a fun game. Matt Carpenter with 7 RBIs to me is a fun time. That's especially when you're in you're playing Boston, and he's the one that's powering you through with the rest of the Yankees explosion. I love that. It felt like even with Cole the next day, it's like he's throwing to like lukewarm bodies with 12 strikeouts at that point. So I'm going with the Matt Carpenter 7 RBI game against the Red Sox, which really set the tone for Garrett Cole the next day.
Wow. Okay. I was going to pick the July 28th Judge walk-off home run. Yankees win 1-0 just because it's Aaron Judge. It's Aaron Judge's season. We're all just watching it.
That's an entire game of 0-0, right?
Oh, I know. The Yankees did
against
nothing.
Against the Kansas City Royals.
I'm well aware, but it was Aaron Judge hitting a walk-off home run, and that's fun.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Judge hit a home run in all 5 of these games.
That does not surprise me.
I think maybe the 16th, the first game against the Red Sox, funny enough, he might have not. That was the one that Carpenter hit too. Hold on, I have it right here. The second game against the Red Sox, he didn't hit a home run. He went 2 for 3 with only 1 RBI. Tough day for Judge.
Loser.
Yeah.
So what are you picking, Logan? Do you?
I mean, I definitely had it between those two when I did it. I'm not gonna lie. I thought that the range was a little bit higher when we were picking games, and I was like, oh, like the July 5th game against the Red Sox was also good, and I was like, we already did those games.
Those were fun games.
I don't know. I definitely leaned the Carpenter 7 RBI 2 home run game just because it was so much fun to watch. And the Red Sox were still alive at that point, so it was kind of, it was like, wow, these guys. I mean, I was, when you look at the, not to get back into, sad Yankee stuff, but when you look at the run differential over the past month, it's pretty good. And everybody's like, well, this doesn't happen. The Yankees have a plus 20 run differential in the last month, but their record stinks. And it's because of these 2 games against the Red Sox. They won 14-1 and 13-2, and it skewed everything. And now, you know what I mean? So I think it's the July 16th against Boston.
Yeah, you made the point in the notes that if you take out those 2 games against the Red Sox, their run differential is actually -4. So
yeah, that's crazy.
The blowouts certainly skewed things, and it's like we have to understand the context here. Like the Red Sox are a bad team. Okay, they blew out a bad team. They didn't blow out the Houston Astros. So I think it's fair to even throw out those 2 blowout wins and look at the fact that over this last month, the Yankees' run differential is -4.
When you look at July, I'm looking at the schedule right now, looking back at individual games, just to jog my memory again. Houston, they obviously lost both of those games, and then the other team that's good are the Mets. Lost both of those games. Everybody else in there, Cleveland, they won the series. Pittsburgh, split. Boston, Cincinnati, Baltimore. You're just when they played tough competition.
They're not playoff teams that they're beating.
They lost.
They've lost.
They were 0-4 versus playoff teams.
And even if you go back into June, they lost to Houston. They split at home against Houston, but then they lost the 1 game in Houston. So they've lost to a lot of playoff teams. They have not been able to beat the teams that they're going to have to beat in the playoffs.
They beat the Twins. Took that series.
They always beat the Twins, and they will never not beat the Twins.
No, it's weird though because they they started the season and they last year they struggled so bad against AL East opponents, and this year it's been quite the opposite. I mean, they beat the Rays, they beat the Blue Jays, they beat the Red Sox, they've beaten the Orioles. They have a really good in-division record. It's everybody else, which in years past it was literally the opposite. Where even last year, Boone talked about it. They played well against the Astros all season long, at home and even they almost swept, as we love to talk about that series last year going into the All-Star break in Houston. So it's kind of just what does it really matter at the end of it? I mean, like, do we want to see them play good teams? Yeah, I just kind of see it as a market correction because they were so good against those teams, and those teams are good.
That's the biggest. That's the biggest thing. I think that we're gonna really find out a lot about this team. This is like in 2016. Remember how we had this is the pivotal one. This is the pivotal stretch. This is the make or break stretch. That after the All-Star break, you seem to have them come every other week. But when they're in Seattle tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, day off Thursday, go into Boston on Friday, Saturday. I'll be at that game actually in Boston on Saturday night. And then they come back home for a big stretch. They have Tampa for 3 days, Toronto for 4, and then the Mets. And that stretch at home is to me a pivotal stretch right there. You got to get back to playing good baseball at home. You got to get back to winning these series at home. And in division opponents and the Mets, which took the 2, like you got to beat those. You got to win those series. You got to take it to the Mets, I think, at home there. And then you go back out to the West Coast. So it's the middle of this month is a good tone setter, I think, for the way that they're going to finish out the season.
So to wrap up this segment, we also have to decide if this game is going to take the crown over the current season winner, which is the Judge and Stanton 3-run homer game against the Blue Jays when Judge hit the walk-off bomb. And no, it is not going to take the crown because we're all going to forget about this game in 5 minutes.
And the month of July has now been erased from our memory. Let's move forward.
Men in Black, mind eraser. All right, we got a few mailbag questions. Scott, if you want to fire through some of these.
All right, this one is a DM from Derek Jeter's son. He's grown up and learned how to.
Thought he had 3 daughters. Thought he had 3 daughters.
And he has an illegitimate kid that is claiming to be legitimate. Hey guys, love the pod. Mailbag question here. I know Aroldis Chapman is back from injury, but with league seemingly discovering the cutter, which includes some of our own arms, why do you think the Yankees have not tried to develop a cutter for him? His slider is dead. I know he's already wild, but the cutter has been a magic pitch for others and can't get much worse than at this point. Thanks, guys. This was July 26th, so this was actually a little bit ago. I would say that any pitch that has more movement going side to side for Aroldis Chapman is dangerous. Not only for the catching situation, but for opponent batters and Yankees late in games. I think that him trying to control a pitch that goes side to side more so is going to be a tough task for the way that he throws. So that's why I believe that he is not throwing that pitch.
I also think it's really hard to start developing a pitch in the middle of a season, and also in the middle of a season where you're just trying to get right and get back to being an effective pitcher.
He's also not going to be on the team next year.
That's true. Developing new pitches is something you do in December and January, and then you play around with it in spring training, and then you get it going for the season. You don't do it on August 8th when you're trying to just
you pitch
contribute.
1 inning at the end of the game in a close game. Very, very difficult. And again, the side to side action for Aroldis Chapman, dangerous, very dangerous. That ball might end up in a dugout.
Yeah, I mean, his slider has been really bad this season. It's just been a hanger a lot of times. We saw him have like a decently effective slider for a couple seasons where it did have good tilt, and he actually buried it a lot of times, and I feel like it was a brief renaissance that he had as a 2-pitch pitcher, but he really just needs to focus on locating his fastball. And I still think if he can locate his fastball effectively, he'll be a good pitcher.
If you can locate your fastball, that's when the slider will play, whether it's good or not. That's what we had talked about. It wasn't a great slider. It never was a great slider. It was an okay slider for a little bit. It was fine. It was fine. It was good enough because he was able to locate the fastball. Everything for most pitchers, but especially Aroldis Chapman, revolves around locating the fastball. If he cannot locate the fastball, I don't give a shit what he has. He could have 19 pitches. He didn't get anybody out because he can't establish the strike. And he can't establish the strike zone, and that's not a good thing for him. All right, move on to the next one from Jacob Page. While I fully expect the Yankees to keep him a starter, I often felt Severino could be a key setup man for the Yankees in the postseason. Do either of you feel this could be an option out of the box given Sevy's latest injury that will keep him out to September? Could a Cole, Montas, Nestor, This was could that be good enough to win a World Series? In the bullpen of Holmes, Lowe, Sevy, Chapman, Marinaccio, etc. This was before Monty got traded, and Monty was in this in his thing. So no, because Monty is now gone. Severino is they're definitely expecting Severino to come back and contribute in the starting rotation. But could he? Yes, he's done it before. We've seen him do it before. But I think they need him right now much more in the starting rotation.
Another risk, not to keep harping on this Montgomery trade, but another risk is that Severino comes back and he can't be a starter, that he really can only be effective and only pitch out of the bullpen because of his injury this season. Like, that is also a possibility, and feels like that they aren't playing for that possibility.
So at this point with Montas here, it would have been between Taillon and Montgomery, right? For as a fourth starter.
Yep.
I mean, is there really? Do you have more or less confidence in one? Taillon even last year went through a middle of the year struggle and came back very strong. And looking at him pitching okay again. Like, to me, there's not much of a difference between Taillon and Montgomery, to be honest.
I think over a large sample size, no. But a lot of it will depend on recent performance out of Taillon, because we've seen him go through such streaky stretches, right? The first 2 months of the season, he was better, clearly better than Montgomery. The next 2 months of the season, or the next month and a half, he's been far, far worse. So what Jameson Taillon are we getting? Because yes, he could go out there and pitch 6 innings and only give up a run, but he could also give up 3 home runs through 2 innings.
He could. But at the same time, we're looking at, again, going back to this, I keep going back to this trade, looking for all of the greener pastures here. But for that fourth starter, you're looking at an option between Jameson Taillon, Clark Schmidt, and Domingo Germán. Clark Schmidt's not even entering the conversation right now, but maybe he could be towards the end of the season if he's stretched out.
I mean, if Domingo Germán starts,
you're looking at those guys, and that's when you have an option to look at Montgomery and be good. All right, guys. Thanks for the mailbags. Just lost Andrew in his Cape Cod vacation house with some crappy internet. We're gonna close it out for today. Look, we got to stretch. Logan, what is your confidence level on this next stretch that we have coming up? Obviously, they are going to be playing some late games in Seattle starting tonight, and then Boston to finish out the road trip. What are your thoughts? Where's your confidence level to end it? Let's end on a high note, maybe.
I mean, I'm always optimistic. So
there we go.
I think Seattle. I mean, do they typically play well in Seattle? I feel like they do. I mean, I know Seattle's a good team this year.
Doesn't Aaron Judge have the record for the longest home run in Seattle? He hit some moonshots. So did Stan last year.
Of Rucco's call when he was a rookie. And Boston, like we said, Boston's a 5th place team. But going to Fenway Park I'm never confident, never 100% confident. So if they could just survive this trip and then get home, they, like you said, they have that big homestand before they go back out to the West Coast, which is just such a weird scheduling thing. I really think they're just going to try and survive this road trip. Hopefully if you split in Boston and hopefully win 2 out of 3 in Seattle, because that's what you need right now. But they don't care about these games. It's August, so
I hope they start caring about the games, if anything else, just to get back into a good groove, because that is what is needed. I will be probably drinking a few right behind the Boston bullpen, so I will do my part and heckle the living shit out of those guys as much as humanly possible. But we'll talk to you guys later in the week. Have a good rest of the week. Go Yankees.